was your trip?
Yeah, it's great to meet you, great to see you. The trip is um, qu- qu- quite difficult because we need to travel by car or by train from Kyiv to Poland, and then we have to fly. My trip was by car and it's maybe 5 hours to the border. I spent 6 hours in the border to pass the border, and extra 5 hours to get from the border to Warsaw.
What do they do at the border that takes so long? Are there a lot of people there waiting, or is there a lot of paperwork, or do they call home and make sure that everything's legitimate?
I'm not sure because Ukrainian border, I understand why it can take some time because they have to check if I have permission to leave the Ukraine because the men from the 18 to 60 years, they can't leave the Ukraine and they could check something. But the Polish border workers, they have to give me the way anyway.
Yeah.
They not check if I need to stay in Ukraine. I don't know why.
Did you say 16 to 60 or 18 to 60?
From 18 to 60.
18 to
So
60.
they
Yeah.
can be mobilized under 60 years. They get good money, they have good salary, and they wanted to stay there after 60 years, but they
Yes.
have to go retired.
Yes. So retirement's mandatory at 60
Yeah,
years old
in militaries.
in the military. So they serve in other capacities and
They have the um, um, some logistics, some
right.
work, some office work.
Yeah.
So they work there.
So when you said you had some friends that have stayed in the military, are are any of them doctors? I mean, do you know of other doctors that are
Yes, from even from my institution in my workplace, there one anesthesiologist who went to the war first day of war. He just picked his backpack and
and
went.
went?
Yeah, but then he became 60 years old last summer, and he came back because he's retired.
He's retired, right?
Yeah, he wanted to stay more, but it's impossible.
They say no.
Yeah, they say no.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting time. Um, the whole world is watching what's going on in Ukraine, and I'm so glad to talk with you because you're a guy that is still in Ukraine. You're still in a leadership position. Um, you're teaching other doctors. You're you've got a chance to have some real impact. You're in this area where you're having to adjust personally. You're having to help everybody that works with you adjust personally. You're having to help your students adjust because they're all younger, right? Now, are they allowed to continue their studies, or are they on the list to go serve?
They continue their studies.
They are able to continue their
Yeah,
study.
because young doctors are not called to the army before 25 years. They can go there by themselves
Right.
after the 18 years,
Mhm.
but they can't be called. And it used to be 20 before 20 under the 27 years old, but this year they change and to 25 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so has that affected how they look at their futures? Do you see a change in the young men who are
Yes, the young doctors, there is a problem because now um, we don't. We used to have more than 10 years ago the military faculty in medical school. So we studied as a military doctors. So I studied, I also have a subject, I also have a faculty with the military. So I have the military specialty. The,
You do?
yes, everyone in post-Soviet countries, we pass the military faculty, but maybe about the 15 years ago, they excluded. And now students, last 10 years or 15 years, I don't know
Yeah,
correctly,
yeah.
they don't have the medical faculty. Not medical, military faculty, military medical faculty.
Now, when you say military medical faculty, are you talking about specialized instruction for the military service? Or are you talking about, I mean,
The doctors for military,
okay, so military doctors
military doctors.
have their own training.
We all used to have it.
It was part of your medical training.
Yes, it's a part. But 10 years ago, they excluded. And now the doctors uh, don't pass it.
Around 2014, they stopped before Crimea.
Yeah, it's before Crimea.
Yeah.
So the medical students now don't pass the military medical faculty.
Yes.
And now, if they came to the army, if they called to the army, they called as just regular soldiers or nurse. Or nurse.
They won't let them be doctors
No.
because they haven't received medical training.
Yes, medical military training. And this is a big problem because from my institution, it at least two doctors who went as a soldiers, just soldiers. The young doctors come just like,
And so all of that talent and all of that education
yes,
is not being used,
no, they just diggers for the,
for trenches.
yeah,
They're soldiers.
yeah,
Regular
they're soldiers.
Do they give them an advanced rank, sergeants or captains?
No, captains. Captains, they like a surgeons. Yes.
Sergeants, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, but this is like a soldiers. This is, but
Right.
yeah, but if they don't have a military medical degree, I am the lieutenant. So I am the officer, but lowest degree.
Yes. When you say lieutenant, it's lieutenant.
Lieutenant, yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
lieutenant.
lieutenant.
Yes.
Yeah, at maybe few years we have once a week for the 4 hours of study for this.
Oh, yes.
It always looks it's a little bit stupid because
Yeah.
we don't think that it ever happens, and we hate this because
Yes. You spend a lot of time joking. Have they gotten more serious now? Now that things are serious in Ukraine,
yeah, it's everything serious in
everything's
Ukraine now.
serious
Yeah,
now. So when you go for this training, you do this to keep up with your training, right?
I don't know how it's now because to exclude military medical training, it's very easy. But to make it back, it's a huge problem for the universities.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they need to make a faculty to employ the people who will do it everything. And if 10 or 15, more than 10 years, 15 years, it wasn't, so I don't know how they do now.
Luck was on the wrong side, instead of continuing, which may have been helpful, they didn't continue. And then they got invaded when they could have usually
Yeah.
really used it. So you said that you had two doctors who got conscripted, or did they volunteer?
No, conscript, they was called.
Because they were
We-
over 25 or over 20.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have some doctors who,
Wow.
just as I told you, when it was 24th of February 2022, so they just take the weapon and they went, some as a doctors, but some as soldiers. So I know from my institute that some who went as a soldiers and they continue as a soldiers, but some wants to be a doctors on the
In the
in
military.
military, but they can't because even with their specialty, they only military specialty, they could be only nurses.
Would you be only a nurse?
I'm not. I passed.
You would
Yeah,
have,
I
okay.
I passed the military education.
So the best they could achieve would be nurses.
For now, yes. I don't know how the government will fix it
Yeah.
because they have to do it.
They need they
They
need
need.
the doctors. Now, you were able to send me a couple of videos. Remember several months ago, you sent a couple of videos and they were hard to watch. They were actually taken, the footage actually taken during battle, and you could hear the bullets flying, and soldiers were wounded, and it was very, very hard to watch. And it's not something that the general public would want to see. But I noticed in the video that they triage, they look to see who's most wounded, who may not survive, but then they see a soldier who is wounded and could survive or is likely to survive, and they'll go to that soldier first, do their best before they go to the soldier who's more deeply injured. What we would call a medic, trained, to stabilize somebody. One of the problems that I've read about is delay in getting treatment. So someone gets wounded, and under normal circumstances, if they had the capacity, if they had the ability to get to a field hospital in 24 hours, their chances of survival are much better than if they have to wait 3 or 4 days to get that kind of care because of things like infection and systems involvement. Is delay in treatment something that people are seeing now?
I think the delays always have everywhere, everywhere, not only on this war, everywhere this problem existed. But I think that now the pathway of the wounded is much better than it used to be 2 years ago.
How has it been improved?
I'm sure that improved. It's not the best,
Yeah.
it's not the ideal, but it's much better than it used to be. I think it's not about 24 hours. In 24 hours, they have to get in a high level hospital. But on the field hospital, they have to get in a few hours. And I'm sure that, yeah, there is different situations. In one situation, this is impossible, maybe more than one day to get because there is a different points on the map and sometimes it's impossible to get to the hospital, but in most cases now it works better, much better.
It does. So are civilian hospitals serving in that capacity? So let's just say that there's a battle going on in this city, or near the city, and there are wounded people, and you have a hospital that's 50 kilometers away, a civilian hospital, and then you have a military field hospital that's 20 kilometers away. Um, are the civilian hospitals helping, or is the military sort of following their pathway, and then they come to, say, the institute afterward?
In most cases this is from military. This pathway from by the militaries.
It's almost all through a military system
Yeah.
where soldiers get helped.
Yeah, and I maybe 2 years ago we had a lot of militaries for the primary care, but now we just provide a high level medical care for the militaries.
Oh, good.
Not from the field, not from the field.
So
No,
you're not seeing
no.
the hard trauma as much. You're dealing
As
with it after they've been stabilized.
yes,
They might get treated at a field hospital or military hospital,
on field hospital, I think they have only be stabilized.
stabilized.
Stabilized, yeah, and then direct to the military hospital.
And then from the military hospital, if there's specialty necessary, from a civilian hospital, there they can maybe be transferred there.
Yes, but for the high level medical care,
Like what? Like for instance,
not about maybe rehabilitation, but maybe a high quality surgeries, some transpositions, some amputations,
amputations.
some
So
yeah.
the more complex
Yeah,
things.
the more complex things, yeah, but sometimes in battlefield hospital.
Right.
Sometimes, but mostly not. They have
Mm,
only be stabilized on
yes.
this hospital.
Yes. I understand. So in a way, that's really good. But in a way, if they were able to get treated sooner, their outcomes might be better if they got primary care in the civilian
Eins.
hospital. They might end up having a better outcome, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
And the neat thing about talking with you is that even though you're in the experience as part of the nation and you're going through it like everyone else, you're able to see a larger picture. But if we talked a little bit personally, who is Iakiv Fishchenko? Why did you become a doctor? Um, is there a story there that's really interesting? Like I talked with a doctor, a very famous doctor here in the U.S. He became a doctor because he was so inspired by his father. He was just amazed by his father, who was a doctor. And he watched how his father worked. And so his motivation was, I wanted to be like dad, right? And that's how he got into it. And it was a good fit for him. But I'm interested now. I'm going to guess that you're in your mid 40s, 45 maybe or something.
Almost.
Almost. Okay. So you've been practicing for 20 years, about, right? What happened that brought you into that space?
My story maybe is the same. I have my father who was a doctor, who was orthopedic surgeon, spine surgeon, and he inspired me the same. So I graduated my medical school in 2004. Then I have my residency in Ukraine. We have it for 2 years. And in 2006, I become a medical doctor. I was interested to work on the Orthopedic Institute. This is a high level. They provide the institute provide high level of orthopedic care. So I was interested to work there. And this is a hard part for everyone, for young doctors who want a high level institution. So, but
Yeah, but
to
they,
work
yeah.
there, you have to do a little, not a little bit, some more than just to work in a regular hospital.
I did a little background work, um, and you have some accomplishments in some surgical techniques, right? That you've developed.
Maybe not developed, I improved it.
You've improved it.
Yeah, I'm a
Can you talk about one of those? And was that part of your research, or was that part of your clinical work?
Maybe it's more the part of my clinical work, but to analyze the results of this work, this is the scientific part. I'm always looking for new techniques which somebody develops in the world. So I got some new knowledges and techniques from South Korea, from Turkey, and I started to do it in Ukraine, And this is a part of my work in Institute of Orthopedics and Traumatology.
Part of your job.
Yeah, but this is a part of my job. So I have to do it every year. I have to publish some papers. I need to um, I need to supervise my fellows
Yes.
who have to write
Yeah.
the papers.
So when you say you have to publish, it's like, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to do this part, and this team is going to
Yeah,
assist you.
yeah.
They're like research assistants.
Now, yes, but 10 years ago, I have to do it by
Yeah,
myself. Yeah.
yes, yes.
I was a part of someone's team.
Tell me one particular procedure that you're most proud of. People want to know what what you improved and why you improved it, and what's the difference between what you helped with and how it was before.
Um, the maybe spinal endoscopy, which I'm perform for last maybe 6 or 7 years. Portal technique. It just started 8 or 10 years ago. So the Korean surgeons they developed it, but they still when I started they didn't have huge experience, and um, they just started. This is degenerative conditions. The big percent of the senior people have different spine problems, and not only the senior people and young peoples and the middle-aged people. Disc problems, and disc problems, this is for young people mostly. But after 60 years old, there are another degenerative conditions of the spine which need surgical care, and for the senior people is much better to get the minimal invasive endoscopic procedure than a big open surgery with an implants, and this is the main advantage of those techniques.
Can you do fusions using endoscopy?
Yes, I can do fusions, but I prefer the fusionless surgery.
Okay, tell
This
me
is
about.
a different philosophy.
Okay, tell me.
This philosophy is some different from the philosophy of United States surgeons and European surgeons, of the big these associations, the North American Spine Society, the European Spine Society, and the big companies who sponsor these societies. The big companies, they make mostly the implants. They produce implants. The different hardware which you implant and make fusion.
Yes.
And the main concept of this: no movement, no pain.
So they restrict movement with bolts and nuts and bolts
Yeah,
and
the screws
rods
and rods.
and yeah.
So no movement, no pain. Yeah. But the philosophy of endoscopic surgery is a little bit different. And different in which we just provide decompression. We just remove that what compressed the nerve. Only relieve the pressure. And mine thinking about it, that we don't need to reduce or stop or block the movement. This is not only the pures, there's also complications. There are more complications. More not it's short-term and long-term complications.
Long term.
Yeah, in short term it's okay. It's everything is okay, but sometimes the old people has an osteoporosis,
Yes.
and
Those.
sometimes these implants become unstable and provide more and more pain. And there is some papers which analyzed the 10, 15, 20 years way of those patients, long-term observation of those patients. And they said if we implant something, the possibility of another surgery on the spine in 5 years, it's about 30%. In 10
Wow.
years, it's more than 50%.
So, but they're getting older and older, and that means it's higher and higher risk.
Yes,
So,
hand risk. But those companies who produce those
yeah,
implants, they sponsor all these meetings and they provide you. You should implant more, and more.
sure.
Yeah, so the mind philosophy is a little bit different. I am not against completely from fusion. I am not. But I reduce my fusion rates maybe in 10 times. Just maybe 10 years ago, before I started the endoscopic spine surgery, I provide more fusion.
How
Endoscopic.
did you change your philosophy? Just by going to South Korea, or was there something bothering you with the approach that you had? It sounds like you weren't satisfied with what you were doing.
There is a few points which change my philosophy. The Korean doctors provide via endoscopic, they provide also a lot of fusions. Fusions have a lot of complication rate.
Mhm.
Not only short term, also as I tell you, the long term. And the patients ask why it happens. Maybe we didn't need these implants. And I started to make a less fusions, and I got much less complications. So less complications, patients more satisfied, I'm more satisfied. So now I have much maybe from 10 patients I have only one fusion, and it used to be 7 fusions for 10
10
patients.
patients. Let's go back to your father. Talk about your father a little bit, and getting into a little bit more detail about remembering him and who he was. And
uh, my father was from a small Ukrainian town, and when he had uh, 3 brothers and 1 sister, so it was a big family. And it was time after the World War II, and they all went to medical school, all the brother, sister, and him. So they all graduated the medical school, and um, he after his internship, he's apply for the training to Moscow, yeah, to the capital, and it was some competition, but he passed it, and he studied for 15 years in Moscow. And when he complete his all steps of that study, he become a professor, he become a very good surgeon. He moved to Kyiv and become a chief of the clinic in Kyiv, where he spent his 30 years, almost 30 years of his life. And there I was born, and uh, maybe all my life, as I remember, He always in his dreams I would become a doctor. So yeah, he inspired me. I'm from my childhood. I spent a lot of time in his hospital. I observe some surgeries even when I was school,
Hmm.
and I spent some time in my holidays in his office.
So your idea of a vacation from school was going in into the hospital and watching him operate on people.
Maybe short vacations there is,
Yeah.
but the long vacations not. But yes, I spent a lot of time, so I was inspired of his example, and when I finish my school,
Uh-huh.
there is no any option for me except the medical school. So um,
But you were okay with it.
yeah, I'm okay with this. Maybe some it was difficult compared to another ways. It was a difficult study, and sometimes I'm not. It was not good for me that mine friends spend more time going out and.
Hmm.
But in medical school, we have to study a lot of study. But it's okay. It's okay.
Did you like school as a kid?
Not
No.
no 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 no. I didn't like school. In general, maybe in general, I didn't like school.
Mhm. So you know what it's like um, to be on the other end, having a challenging professor or a challenging teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the EU for a minute, if we can. Ukraine is on an ascension path to the EU or accession to the EU, and when that membership is sort of solidified, and I think most people are thinking it will be solidified. How do you think that that's going to affect healthcare in Ukraine? I know, for instance, Director Babenko at the State Expert Center, we talked multiple times, and they're bringing health care standards for Ukraine are getting closer to the EU standards. What do you think about that?
Ah, I think that to be is a part of the EU is very good for all Ukrainian population of Ukrainians because they provide high quality standards not only in healthcare but in healthcare too. So if our people will get the high level medical standards of healthcare in orthopedic care, which will be guaranteed by the government, the Ukrainian government. So it's beneficial for everyone.
Yeah.
I'm completely sure that it will be very good for all of us.
So you're in favor.
I don't think that everything is very good in European system, but if to to see from for a huge population and all they get the high quality minimum standard, it's very good. Yeah, that's good.
Do you think that healthcare in Ukraine has changed because of the war?
Uh, we don't have, yeah, it's changed, but it changed now for better.
Tell me how it got better.
The Ukrainian medical care system got more money than before. because now a lot of injured people, so the government invest more money, and even not militaries wanted militaries, even the civilians got much better system, much better financial support for the medical questions, and it's improved last years, and I think it will improve more. But I don't know how it will be after the war, because I don't know that economical situation in Ukraine which will be then, because now now is okay. Now it's very we have a very good financial support.
Are the other cities in Ukraine that aren't like directly in the line of fire, are they still holding it together in their healthcare system? Do you see that in general it's still stable, still able to do what it's supposed to? For instance, I wondered, I'd spoken with Alona, your wife, and we were supposed to have a meeting, and she said there's no power in Kyiv right now. So, and that was coming at the time when I think the government was having imposed blackouts. Did that sort of affect what you were doing, and is that affecting other people?
It just affects the people at their homes, but the hospitals is the critical infrastructure, so they are supported by the electricity is completely 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we don't have any problems with electricity in hospitals.
Oh, good. So you're not like having to operate with flashlights or anything.
For these 2.5 years, I live in Kiev. I work in Kiev, so this is the capital. It was only once, maybe almost 2 years ago, because um, it was fall, winter, that period. It was cold in Ukraine, and um, one working day we lost the electricity maybe for a few hours. But all the hospitals now is supported by the gasoline generators. So for casual work, it's not very not enough. But for so extreme hours, it's okay.
Um, it's we could talk for a long, long time, but I wonder if we could sort of take a look at your personal life and how you're doing and how you're coping. What keeps you not just alive, but how can you continue to function day to day when things around you sometimes are a little bit better and then they get worse, and then a little bit better and they get worse. I mean, Kyiv is fairly well protected,
Yeah.
but even then, not 100%. And, Alona lives in London and you're in Kyiv. And from what I understand, you do get to see each other reasonably often. But how do you keep your mental health? How do you stay healthy? Is it lonely? I mean, what do you do to pass your time?
Um, I love my work and I spend a lot of time there. So all the working days from the early Monday to the late Friday, I'm in my office. And when I came back home, I don't have any power to do some to go somewhere, so I'm much tired, so I'm okay. For the weekends, maybe the first day of weekend is Saturday, I prefer to spend very lazy Saturday, so I don't want to do nothing, and maybe on the in Sunday I just move somewhere, do somewhere. and to, I don't know, to protect my mental health. uh, I'm not reading and following the news. I just do my work, and I think if everybody in Ukraine will do his work good for 100%, we we all will win. So just I need to do my work completely for the high grade quality. So I am in it.
I believe you.
Thank you.
Does Marie come to visit you, or is she always with Alona?
She's always at Alona, but in winter, a few weeks while she has her holidays, I think in spring, in autumn, holiday school holidays, they come to visit me in Kyiv. We're trying to spend more time, and when I have any possibility to move out from Ukraine, it's we always I always fly to London, and we're trying to go somewhere.
Let's do this. I'd like you to make three statements. One would be, what would you like to say to young physicians who are under your tutelage, under your mentorship? What would you like to say to them to inspire them to keep their mental health, to stay healthy, to work hard, and the wisdom behind that? So that would be the first statement. The second statement would be, what would you tell your wife to inspire her to have hope? And the third would be, what would you tell your daughter to inspire her to have hope? Because sometimes those words aren't said, but they're very meaningful. So now's your chance. If you have words to say, and we'll close our interview with that. So, what are you going to say to your physician students?
Oh, it's difficult. They are all different. Someone inspired by motivation by money, someone motivated by they need to do huge surgeries, uh, somebody something else. So I'm supervised three young doctors, and they all completely different.
Okay, imagine the last day of class. You're never going to see them again. You're launching them out to their next steps, and you have to give an inspirational speech. You have to leave them with something other than what you've taught them. So there's your class right there. It's the last time you're going to see them. Go ahead.
Do the best, and you will get the best.
Okay.
Maybe very short, but
But it says a lot, doesn't it? Do the best and you will get the best. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to switch to your wife.
it's more difficult because we every day we need to inspire each other that sometime it will change for better. The war will stop, and she could come come back home and spend time in home, because we love Ukraine, we love our house, and we want to spend more time with each other in Ukraine in our house. So we need to we talk about it a little often, yeah, so because we need to motivate each other, because for me it's very difficult to live without my family, and for Alona is very difficult to live without me in UK. So uh, we 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 need to we have to talk about it every week.
So give me an example of how you and how do you lift her up? What do you say to lift her up?
So it will be a time when she could come back and we could live in our house in Ukraine.
So you remind her.
Yeah, it's difficult because she is by her own with a teenager. It's difficult because Maria has some her own minds, and it's not often. She's a good girl, but not
Not
quite
easy.
easy. Not
Yes.
easy to Alona to have it every day. Every day.
Yes, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
So let's talk about Maria's pressure. You don't get to see her often. I know you probably talk to her often.
Not often. She is very busy.
She's very busy.
Friends, school friends.
She doesn't care about dad or mom.
Maybe with mom she has a much more conversation, but always when I wanted to talk with her, it's like a few words and I'm busy.
Yeah. So here's your chance. Just give it a little bit of thought. And so you're going to try to. So she said, "Yes, Dad, I'm going to talk to you. I got 5 minutes. You don't have to talk for 5 minutes, but she wants to hear from you." What would you tell her to inspire hope in her? Putting yourself in her head.
Oh, it's really difficult because even to talk to her some time it's difficult because I don't know her minds, and I'm trying to talk with her from some practical direction, and I'm not sure that that practical direction she understand now. She is in another mm, mm, another time of her life, and maybe I did I remember myself at 14 years, so it was not very interested for me to talk with my father about life. Now I'm trying to inspire maybe her that she can choose everything she wants, and we will help her with this. If she want to play music, we will support in it. If she wants to have a sport, we trying to support, and just it's difficult to make an advice for her now. She don't want to hear advices from me.
Does the war make that harder?
The war.
Like being separated,
um
does that make it sort of harder to relate as a father, or do you feel like that's the way it would be even if she was home?
I think that it will be when she was at
Yeah.
home. Yeah, I think this is the age. This is about age, not about the war. I'm happy that Maria haven't here any blows, because we moved from Ukraine few days before the war. She moved from Ukraine few days before the war, so she just hear about the war, maybe a little bit read about the war, maybe heard from her friends something. Oh, you're from Ukraine. Oh, there's a war. But she didn't. I'm happy that she didn't saw and didn't hear by her eyes, by her ears, the war. And I'm not sure that the problem is in maybe my relations with. I don't think that we have a problem, but in relations. But this is not about the war. This is about just her age when she is not interested to talk with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we found out a lot about Maria. Now what would you tell her? So like in one sentence, um, let's just say it's her birthday, right?
Oh, take care of mom.
Take take care of mom. That's good advice. Does she step up to does she understand that she needs to be an encouragement to Alona?
I'm sure that she understand it, but sometimes she need to hear it again.
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to remind her it.
right. So take care of mom. That's
Yeah.
that's great advice. Well, so I usually wrap up these interviews for the podcast with just giving a couple of minutes to see if you have any questions you would like to ask me. There might be something that you're curious about or that you'd like to ask me about. And so if you have anything you'd like to ask me, here's your chance.
So, what do you think about how the war will stop in Ukraine?
First of all, I don't pretend to even try to understand what you are going through. So I can only think of it from across the ocean. Um, and based on the twisted information that we sometimes get in the US, sometimes it's not the right information. But if I had to predict, I would say that China will talk to Putin and Europe, the rest of Europe, will have a talk with Putin and they'll lay it down for him. And I believe that they'll give him a chance to begin talks with President Zelensky. Um, I don't think Ukraine is going to get out of it with all of their land. I think that the price for peace, there's going to be losers on both sides, if that makes sense. So I think Russia will have a lot to lose, and I think Ukraine is going to have some to lose. But with the international community behind Ukraine, I don't think they're going to miss whatever is negotiated as much as they think they are going to right now. I think Europe's eyes have been opened because they've seen this before. They know how this goes, right? My wife and I lived 7 months in Ireland a couple of years ago, and we were there when Ukraine was invaded, and there were people in Europe, like you mentioned earlier, dropping their lives and going to Ukraine to help. No questions asked. We watched an Irish concert where they have this special song that they sing, which reminds them of their independence war. And instead of it being their homeland, they sang about Ukraine. US politics, you can't depend on. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that no one ever thinks about. But I believe that the US has Ukraine's back as a nation. I don't know from president to president how that goes, but I think that the war will end by the end of the year.
I hope so too.
Uh,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you for everything that you're doing and for taking the time.